it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and today I'm designing a layout for SpiegelMom Scraps. And I'm still scrapping Christmas photos, mid-January. I'm still nowhere near finished with Christmas yet. And I've pulled out the November 21 hip kits, their Christmas collection, all exclusives. And I've got these two mixes from SpiegelMom. They are Blushing Bride and Glacier Summit. Now they're not particularly Christmassy, they're not the traditional kind of reds and greens of Christmas, but I'm going to use them on a Christmas layout and I think they work really well. So I've selected this pattern paper from the November hip kits because it's got pinks, blues and reds in, which work really well with these two sequin mixes. And the idea I kind of had was like a candy swirl. So there's that patterned paper in the Pink Fresh Studio Christmas collection that I've loved. I just think it's gorgeous. I haven't got any of it. I haven't bought any of that collection, but I just love the idea of the candy swirl. So that was kind of my inspiration for this layout and making a candy swirl. So I've used my silhouette machine and I drew a circle and then kind of cut some sections out to look like candy swirls, but I've kind of offset the centre a bit. So I've got some longer and wider sections and some smaller, and I'm kind of arranging them as if they were in a circle with obviously the white bits in the middle missing. And I'm going to stitch through the centre of each of these. So I've just tacked them in place to start with a tiny bit of double-sided tape just at the centre points where they're going to meet. And then I'm going to stitch white thread through the centre of each of them, and then that will allow me to turn up the edges either side and just create a bit of dimension and texture on the page. So I've skipped through most of the stitching process for you, and I've just pulled all the threads through to the back of my page, just trimmed them off and taped them down in place just to secure them. And you can see now what I meant about stitching down the centre and turning up those edges. Kind of looks more like a windmill to me now, or a pinwheel, than kind of a candy stripe pattern, but never mind, I still love how it turned out. And I'm going to get to working on my photo now. So I've cut it in a circle because it's going to sit in the middle of that kind of candy stripe swirl. It's a photo taken of Christmas Eve of my little boy and his new teddy bear who he called Friday. He won him in the school raffle, and he was taking him everywhere with him before Christmas. So we've got some lovely photos of them together. Sadly, Friday has now been replaced with a cuddly toy of Stitch that he got for Christmas from Lilo and Stitch. So poor Friday has not moved since Christmas. But yeah, he wanted some photos of him and Friday before we did our family photo shoot. So that's what this photo's of. And I've printed it black and white purely because the colours in the photo didn't really work with the colour scheme I wanted to go with today. His pyjamas were like cheeky elf pyjamas, so bright red and bright green. I think it would have just clashed a little bit. I didn't really want to bring green into the page. So I've printed the photo in black and white to kind of get around that. And now I've just added a couple of layers of pattern paper behind it, just for a bit of contrast and to help it pop off the page a bit. So I've done a red patterned paper and then like a dark, almost navy paper, just to bring in some darker shades. I'm going to have that sitting in the centre there, raised up with some foam just to help it pop a little bit. So that's the basis of my layout done. I'm now going to get my sequins stuck down and bling it up a bit. I love a bit of sparkle, especially on a Christmas layout. So I love these two mixes. They are both stunning and they are full of different shades and different colours. This Blushing Bride mix has got pinks, it's got kind of silvery pinks, it's got like goldish pinks, kind of blush colours. They're just absolutely stunning. I love it. And the blue one is just the same, loads of different sizes and colours and shapes. So I'm trying to get some of each on the layout rather than just sticking to one shade or one size. And I'm going to have lines of sequins following the lines of pattern paper there. So you can see I've done that first one that will be at the bottom, and I'm going to alternate them. So I'm going to have a pink line, then a blue line, and so on all the way around, but just having those sequins just following the curve piece on the patterned paper. So I've got all my Blushing Bride sequins in place. I'm now going to come in with my Glacier Summit, and again this is just a gorgeous mix of different colours, and I'm just alternating them as I go down the line here, and I'm going to do that for the other three kind of bits of pattern paper as you go around. So there we go, that is all of my sequins in place, and I've used glossy accents to stick these down because I find it's got a really strong hold. PVA glue works just as well, but I find that my layouts kind of sit stacked up in the corner of the room for an awful long time before they make it into page protectors and albums. So I go with the glossy accent because it's a super strong hold, and it just ensures that none of my sequins are going to ping off at any point. So now I'm moving on to thinking about embellishing the page, and I had no idea what I wanted to do once I'd got to this point. I had my candy stripe pattern papers in place and my sequins, and that was as far as I got with the kind of planning part of this layout. So I'm kind of winging it and being inspired by the kit itself at the moment. I've got these acetate numbers from HipKit and I love them. And I wanted to use the 2 and 4 for 24 because it was Christmas Eve, but I also wanted my title to be One More Sleep. So I'm having a bit of play here and moving it around and trialing things in different areas and different places. And I do faff for a long time until I come up with something that I'm happy with. So I've skipped through the faffing for you because I probably spent about 10 minutes moving my numbers and these the title alphabets around until I settled on this design. So I'm going to have the 24 over on the sort of widest part of the candy stripe, and the One More Sleep going around the the edge of my circle. And even now I'm moving 24 again, trying to see if I can get it down the bottom, because I didn't really want all three numbers up in the top sort of clustered together. I wanted the 24 up the top left and like the one down the bottom right, or the other way around, but it just wasn't working for me, so I've ended up having them all kind of in the same section. Doesn't matter, it doesn't take away from the layout at all. It was just one of those little things that was bugging me, but I've had to just deal with it and then move on before I change my mind again. So I'm just fluffy cutting some flowers now from one of the pattern papers. It's got lovely poinsettias all over it, so I'm sticking with the kind of reds, blues and pinks, just getting a couple of these cut out to embellish the page with. So once I'd fussy cut them, I also used my distressing tool and just distressed the edges of the petals slightly. Not too much, just a little bit to bring in a bit of texture. And I've also turned the edges up, sort of folded the paper a little bit just to bring in some dimension and texture. Just makes them look a bit more realistic so they're not kind of so flat, stuck on the page. And I'm just going to have them clustered, 2 over on the top left and 2 down on the bottom right. And I'm pulling off some stickers from the sticker sheet. I've got a lovely kind of turquoisey coloured bow down the bottom there and some little like Christmas stars. I'm just scattering those around in between the areas of pattern papers just so there's something in that white space along with my sequins. Just pulled in Santa's sleigh as well as the perfect colour for my layout, and of course Santa over on the right. It's Christmas Eve, he was going to bed getting ready for Santa, so I've put my Santa there, and he's a gorgeous Santa, slightly too big to make him work for any of my HipKit layouts unfortunately, but he's made it onto this page, so I'm really pleased that I've used him because he is super cute. And I'm going to get all these bits stuck down with some foam behind them just to raise them up, bring in a bit of kind of layering and dimension. And then for my acetate numbers, I'm just using a couple of foam squares behind these. I would have used the tabby pop dots, but they are acetate numbers and they are translucent, so you can see through them. So I've gone with my foam pads instead because they're a bit smaller and less noticeable, but do the same job. Probably not quite as sticky as the tabby pop dots from SpiegelMom, but they're in place and hopefully they'll hold. But that is my layout finished today. Now I've got those numbers down, I am done. So thank you very much for joining me. It was my first SpiegelMom layout of 2022. still probably going to be scrapping Christmas into March at this rate, but I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's given you some inspiration. Like I said, these mixes are now available in the store, and the link down in my description box will give you 15% off at checkout, and that link won't expire. You can use it as many times as you like, so copy and paste it and keep it somewhere safe for future use. I'll also pop a link in the description box to our Spread the Sparkle Facebook group as well. If you're not already a member, head on over there. You'll find loads of inspiration in the group from obviously our community and also other DT members. But I'll leave you with all the close-ups now. I've gone mad taking loads for this layout, but I hope you've enjoyed. Thanks very much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.